Hey everyone, AJ here with 4x4 Off-Road. Today we're going to go over SVC's new rock sliders and how to install them. We're going to do this in 3 parts. First is what you need to remove to prepare for the installation. Second, we're going to go over how to paint the bottom of your pinch welds to cover those hideous, ugly looking things on the bottom. And lastly, we're going to go over the installation and have a discussion on the benefits these can offer you on the trail. How these work is you want to get this nice and prepped for install. So you want to make sure you're removing the bolts that go through here. They're just on with 2 10mm bolts. And after you remove all 6 of them total, 3 attachment points, and at that point you actually want to go underneath here and remove any hardware that might be installed here. There's like a bracket that goes on there, supports it, comes down for both your sliders or for your rock systems, but you should see a few of them across the body here. Now on your passenger side, you want the same preparation. You're going to remove these 10mm bolts, and then you are also going to remove these brackets here that support it. But in addition to that, if you have a skid plate, you actually do want to remove these bolts right here, and the product is actually going to sit right on top of it here, and there's new bolts that supply and go through here. So go ahead and remove those bolts ahead of time. All right guys, this next step here, it's really an optional step. For myself, I have this great blue, but unfortunately Ford made these great big pinch welds. So it's really something that can tend to show, and I'd like to hide it. I'm gonna do that with just spraying it with some nice rocker guard. I'm gonna mask it off with some easy blue painter's tape, give it a little prep with some 220, and get this thing all addressed. So that way, as these come on, it blends in real nice with the body of the vehicle. Alright guys, once you get it prepped like this and you get your drop cloth basically all set up here, I'm just gonna hit it down with some rubbing alcohol or alcohol-based cleaner and just get all the contaminants off and get everything I can prepped so that way it has the best chance of sticking to this finish as possible. Okay, let me get you guys a good look of this one. All right, we got it pretty dialed in here. It's definitely not perfect, but this product has an adhesion promoter in it, so it should work out very well. So here's a closer view of the prep work. So as you can see, we got a nice tape edge on the bottom. We have prepped everything down below here. We got about a solid 24 inches of basically some sort of paint guard. So for us, we have a nice plastic. We have some overlap here for the tire just in case. I'll probably end up getting in here a little bit more and just make sure I can knock down a little bit more of this gloss. But that's really what you're gonna look for to paint these and get that nice coating on there. All right guys, as you can see, I put down a drop cloth because just like I don't plan on getting a flat tire on the trail, I don't really plan on having overspray and drips, but I just do this in case. So this first coat, we're just gonna do nice and light, kind of get it into our trouble areas. give us something to work off of for tacking. Again, nice and light, right into the areas, give us good adhesion for our next coat. That should be a good enough, there you go, that's why we prep. That should be a good enough amount to just get us a good tack going, and we'll come back in about 5 to 10 minutes here based on how the product looks, and we'll finish it up. All right guys, so this next coat we're gonna do a lot heavier because this is starting to tack up and is definitely ready for it. We're gonna make sure we get some great coverage across here and start to get that look we're going for. Now remember, the thicker you go on, the longer it's going to take to dry between coats setting it up. For me right now, I want to get a good thick coverage, make sure I got everything covered and that it's going to have a good adhesion that's uniform across it. We're going to follow up with one more coat and we'll get to that real quick here. All right guys, we got the final coat. Going to finish it off for our third and final, and we're going to take these off and see what they look like. All right guys, now that we got about 3 coats on here, we're gonna take this all off and show you what it looks like. So let's give you a close-up view of how these turned out. So as you can see, it's just a nice sharp line all across the bottom here. Real nice and easy. Again. So we're gonna put this on. You got it in the frame. Just gonna give it some light taps, and that's how we prep the ends of these. So it's nice and flush, no lines. All right guys, for this next step, if you're doing it by yourself, you're probably gonna want 2 jack stands. You wanna set them a height that's relative to the frame of your Bronco. This way it can help support the slider while you're installing it. You're also gonna need to grab your needed hardware. So that is 2 new frame bolts and its corresponding washer, 2 rubber isolators, the body bolts that are gonna go through those rubber isolators and the slider, and then finally, your final front frame bolt. This bolt also has a nut to capture it in the front, and we'll go from there. But also take advantage of the fact that it has a nice tab right here that can leverage against the frame, so that way it can help support itself while you're positioning it. So you can see I have it resting in a place that allows me to go in and grab the bolts. This next step is a little bit of an athletic move. I think the vast majority of us can get this done. We're going to insert our frame bolts next. to a point that it's holding on its own weight, we're gonna come back here. We're gonna grab these rubber isolators, the body bolts, and the corresponding washers and get those installed. So again, I just want to get you guys a close-up of what this looks like. So that is your rocker bolts, and this is our body mount attachment. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over here, we're gonna take our rubber isolator and place it right in between the two of them here. Now, see if I can be a super athlete and shift this up with my knee. We're just gonna line up the hole there, put our bolt through. I can do this with one hand and knee. There we go. And that's good and ready to rock and roll. So again, this is a 5/8 bolt. So after we get it started, we can start to zip it in. It should draw. Alright guys, for this next one, this one goes right into the base of our body mount here. And it's just a nice easy hole to get to. The problem is to show you guys this one, it does involve, again, two hands, because not only do we have the bolt that we have to put on, we actually have the nut as well. So hopefully I can show you this on the GoPro. Alright guys, for this next step, we're gonna start setting up our hardware for our aluminum slider. So to put these in, we have these nice self-retainers, and they just go into these body mounts here, right on the frame. So you can just click them in. And there's a number of them all across here. You also have some right down here that you have to do on those frame attachments. And then after you get all those in, we're gonna grab our 1/2 inch hardware and our slider and line it up and start to install them.